Hello and welcome to another Dev Diary number 32. Now, I did not do a Dev Diary for number 31 as it was all about scripting and modding, and there was an awful lot of code in it, and I didn't think that my input in that one was going to be valuable because I simply don't know enough about modding and scripting and coding and all that to really have any kind of meaningful input. So I decided to skip that one. I did have a little bit of a chat about it on the NoCB podcast the next day, so every Wednesday. So if you want to see my preliminary opinions and thoughts on that one, then you can go and watch that particular episode of the podcast. But yeah, didn't think it was my input was valuable, so I just didn't do it. So, but now we have this one, Dev Diary number 32, going medieval on audio. So, I believe Andreas Waldetoft, who did the music for games like Hearts of Iron, EU4, Crusader Kings 2, I believe also Victoria 2, did the music on CK3 as well. So it's great to see him back. Yeah, let's get into this. Hey, my name is Bjorn Iverson, and I worked as an audio director on Crusader Kings 3. Finally get this opportunity to write a dev diary about what the audio team has been working on for a long time. We'll split up this dev diary into different parts. First off, I want to tell a little bit about the audio vision and what my ambitions were for the game audio. Then we'll talk about sound design, which is what is new and improved from previous games, and of course, last but not least, the soundtrack. To start off with a short backstory, it's quite a daunting task to work with the studio for Crusader Kings 3, since CK2 had so many years of development that included some of our most iconic soundtracks, which are loved by the community. Very true, you can hear some of them in the background of this video if I remember to input it in editing. Later down the line, we also started to add more sound design to the game, which some of the community has appreciated a lot. It's interesting that it says some of. I don't remember any big backlash against any of the sound design that's been added, but I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it. So initially the big question was, what is needed to be improved for the sequel? What do we want to keep from the previous game? What brand new audio features do we want to introduce? First and biggest step up we wanted to do in Crusader Kings 3 was to have audio looped in early in development as possible. In CK2 was developed before my time as audio director, and during those days the studio did not have any dedicated sound designers that helped with the game audio. First, Andreas Waldetoft, our in-house composer and close co-worker, and I could in the early stages of design work on what we wanted to do with the soundtrack. Then I can establish an audio vision for sound design already at this stage. This will be helpful for when my first sound designer, Gustav, aka Paradox Gustav, could onboard the project to help out with sound design. This meant that we could work more on certain aspects that I felt were a little bit lackluster in the CK2, and the three main pillars for me were storytelling. Since the game is about characters, their actions, and the tales that are created, it was my ambition to bring all events and character actions more into life with the help of audio. As an example, we've added sound effects to the event backgrounds to enhance the immersion of the event. For instance, if it takes place in a courtyard, it should sound like it. Makes sense. Well done audio is like well done CGI. In that obviously you can tell it's there, but it's so subtle that you don't need to think about it. When audio design is done really well, it's natural. And when CGI is done really well, it looks natural. It's only when it's bad that you really notice it. Best example of that is like the final fight in the film Black Panther. That was quite bad CGI for a variety of reasons, and it looked like that's when you notice it. Like the majority of the film is CGI, but that final fight was really bad, so you noticed it. And I think the same holds true for sound design, audio design, and soundtracks and such. When a soundtrack is bad, you really notice it. Even if the game is phenomenal, if the soundtrack is bad, it grates on you. But yeah, when the sound design is good, when the backing tracks work, it just flows and it's natural and everything is harmonious, and sunshine and rainbows and pixies and shit. It's great. My goal is that not only the sound design that should enhance the immersion of the storytelling, but also have the music help with that. A bit more about music later in the diary. The map should feel alive. I always felt that it was a bit underdeveloped in the previous title, and since we have created such a beautiful map, it was important for me and the audio team that the map would sound great also. If you zoom into an area of the map with a lot of rivers and forests, it should sound like it's alive. Oh, I love that. That's fantastic. Same goes with holding, so it should sound populated based on the type and culture. That is really cool. I'm looking forward to seeing that specifically. That's cool. A calmer soundscape. Now, this might sound a bit too abstract, but hear me out. One of the main issues with the previous title was also how, unfortunately, every single audio and music asset wanted to play loud and all at the same time. Yeah, there was... when you load up CK2, you got this nice calming... this one. And then all of a sudden it just bursts your eardrums with this huge thing. But he's talking about sound design, not the actual music, so that's kind of beside the point. But even so, that it just made me think of that. Another one of our main goals was to have a much better soundscape in which no sound effects are competing with each other for too much of a place in the mix, and that the music isn't too intrusive for the player experience. Basically, we wanted the game to sound more calm, which is more pleasing to the ears after long gaming sessions. But enough writing about our goals. Let's show off some of the cool stuff we've been working on with some video footage. Very nice, love it. So sound design, we've got event windows. So the event windows have two main elements of sound effects. The first one is an event theme, as we call them, and there are different ones depending on the event. Also then, Art made these beautiful backgrounds for the events, and we wanted to enhance them by adding ambience sound. Here's an example of a marriage event with those two elements. So I'll play it for you now. Alright, so you can see what I've been... my recommended's nice, thanks. Okay, so we had that immediate kind of glistening kind of sound that came up, and then afterwards you could hear the fireplace in the background, the ambient sound of the area that they're in, which is pretty cool. Although, having a look at this, what is going on with this man's hand? What is going on with this man's hand? It's being cut off. No, you need to fix that. You need to fix that. That's going to grate on me. That's going to grate on me super hard. Alright, so if you listen carefully in the video, you'll hear a subtle feature. Once the event window is on screen, the map ambience is lowered in volume to add focus to the event, so it's more invoking to read and get immersed in the story. And to add some extra flavor for the events, sometimes the music will also change when it appears. Here's a video with just the music and the same event, for example. Gotta say, I quite like the music. Right, and now when you put all of the pieces of the puzzle together, you'll get this result. Gotta say, I really quite like that. It was... obviously you could tell that the track changed from one to the other, but it wasn't jarring, it wasn't a simple transition either. It wasn't just like one track had its audio lowered and then the others like slowly ramped up and then crossed in the middle. That didn't happen. It just felt really natural, as in it's just a next beat of the soundtrack, and that I really liked. Yeah, I quite like the audio design. It's pretty on point so far. I think this is the right approach to enhancing the storytelling element of our games that happens through event windows. Since it's worked really well with event windows, we wanted to combine both sound effects and music for other instances in the game, such as declaring war. Alright, let's have a listen to this one. That was banging. I love that. That was phenomenal. That was actually bloody incredible. Now, alright, we're going to listen to this again. I'm going to give my thoughts while it's going on. Obviously, you declare war, and immediately you hear the horns. And I'm thinking, okay, this might be just a part of the sound effects. Those horns, like the war horns, the horns of war are blaring because you're going to war. And then that kind of theme went all the way through the entire soundtrack, and I began to realize, oh, it's actually a part of the music track. And that, it's such a good track, though. It gives me sort of the vibes of Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, when you're seeing the Uruk-hai army for the first time. You've got that kind of banging background beat to it, and oh, it pumps me up. I love it. And then it goes into this like kind of crescendo spread of I love this. Is cool. This is cool. Also, I want to see what that is. Why is Glitterhoof in CK3? Alright, so I see what it is now. It's the errors. This is CK3's Platypus Roman, which is pretty cool. I like it. That's alright. I'll take it for sure. Yeah. No, it's such a good song though. That's awesome. Absolutely nailed that. Good job. As mentioned before, it was important that the map would sound more alive and that it would sound different based on nature and holdings, which the team has succeeded in creating. Instead of writing so much about it, I'd love to give some examples instead. Ambience over England, where you can hear the different holdings and nature ambience. You can hear a bit of church bells, you can hear logging going on, deforestation, cutting down the trees. Someone playing a bit of flute, wind instrument. Obviously you can hear the harbour as well, and the sea and the wind and shit. Actually, that flute thing that I heard might even have been like a peasant girl humming, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, let's compare it to the ambience of the Nile River. It is his favourite place for listening to ambience. So we hear the sounds of a marketplace. Definitely the sound of the river is more pronounced in this one than it was for England. I don't know what that is that I'm hearing as well. it's definitely, I mean, the fact that there is different ambient noises for where you are on the map is really, really cool. I like that quite a lot. All right, and then we've got one for India as well. Okay, got some donging going on. A little bit more donging going on. There's a lot of wind rustling through trees, that's for sure. Obviously less rivers because there's only minor rivers being shown here. And no coastline, but I assume if you go next to some of the major rivers, like the Indus or the one that goes through Bengal, I forget the name of that one, then you might hear a bit more of the river sound. But that's really cool. I like it. I like that the music changes depending on where you're looking in the world. That's really awesome. Anyway, let's move on to what Andreas Waldtoft has to say. Hi, my name is Andreas Waldtoft, aka Jazzhole on this forum, and I'm the senior composer here at Paradox. I've worked on most of our internal games throughout the years, and I've had the pleasure to work on Crusader Kings 3 as well. As I composed CK2 back in the days, we did not have to completely start from scratch with some of the more recognizable themes. We, however, wanted a soundtrack that would have much more depth in the sort of sounds one can expect to hear. For example, we've recorded many different medieval instruments. Examples are bagpipes, hurdy-gurdy, keyed fiddles, stringed instruments, and many different percussion instruments, to name a few. We also used a full orchestra, solo vocalists, and church choirs. So we've got a couple of pictures of that as well. I do not recognize that instrument, but it looks funky. I assume they did it around Christmas time because of the tinsel. I don't know. But that's pretty cool. Another instrument I do not recognize. And bagpipes. Recognize those ones. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool indeed. Alright. Bjorn has already talked about the use of cue tracks for events and storytelling, which is something we've talked about right from the design phase a few years ago. Therefore, we have cue tracks and mood music as kind of a cornerstone of the soundtrack. The cue tracks are often short pieces of music that react to events happening in the game. Mood tracks are music that, as the name implies, is meant to give a more calm, moody experience that is pleasing to listen to for long hours. For long hours is definitely a good thing to work for, because people do tend to play grand strategy games in long sessions rather than short sprints. All right, here's an example of a cue I did for an event called The Crusade Starts. It's from the orchestral session we had in Budapest. Ooh, okay, let's listen to this. That was pretty cool. I like that. That sounded awesome. Yeah, for the start of the Crusades, I can definitely see that fitting in very, very nicely. And again, a little bit more for Crusades. Also did a few orchestral suites in the game to be used as main themes. This excerpt is from a piece called Knights of Jerusalem and is once again at the Budapest Scoring Orchestra recording session. All right, I love it. I love it. That might just be up there with some of my favorite music out of any Paradox game. That was awesome. And yeah, maybe it might just be because it's brand new to me and I've never heard it before, and it's good that I'm thinking it's maybe better than it is. But honestly, I don't think so, because that was banging. I loved that. I absolutely loved that. That's fantastic. Yeah, no, that was great. Crusader Kings 3 has more music than any vanilla strategy game we've developed, so my good friend Philip Wereborn stepped in to help me compose music tracks for different situations in the game. You might have heard his music in the Stellaris 4th anniversary trailer, which he helped compose. That's it about the music. I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts once it is released. I've got another one here. Awesome. Alright, a bit more. So, there will be more updates regarding this in the future, but I will touch briefly on this topic now since I know the community will ask about it, and yes, there is some modding support. There will be possibilities to change out the assets from mood tracks and cue tracks. There will also be possible to add more tracks as well. Good stuff. This will be short and sweet for now, since I'll probably need to create a forum post on how to mod the music, but that will happen after release. But here below is a video showcasing how I switch out Declare War cue tracks to another song from Stellaris. This should be interesting. That just sounds weird in this game. Hearing Stellaris music over Crusader Kings definitely does not just sit right with my brain. Also, I love how it cuts out right before the interesting part. But no, that was yeah, a bit weird, that one. So with that, it's time for me to wrap up the dev diary. I hope you got as excited as we are for you to hear the soundscape we've worked on for a long time. Yeah, no, absolutely. That has really pumped me up for CK3. Every bit of music that we've just heard there was just awesome. But as per usual, we will dive into the forums to take a look at the comments there. So it's not that one. It is not that one. It's that one there. Lovely. And it's not really down to the thing. All right, here we go. So I'm very glad the audio seems to have a lot of effort put into it. I mean, I wouldn't say, of course I'm glad, but I don't know if I would bring that up because I think that kind of goes as standard. There's not really a soundtrack from a Paradox game that I don't think has had a lot of effort put into. Funnily enough, I think they kind of all have had a lot of effort put into them. Obviously. Sadly, the industry often focuses on graphics because they're marketable and flashy. I don't know. Maybe I don't play the same games. Let's put it that way. CK2 had a lot of problems with its audio. The sound you hear when most events trigger in is 4 seconds wrong and quickly becomes an irritation. Soundtrack is nice to listen to with the first 100 hours with the game, but it can't provide a good experience over countless game sessions you're supposed to have. Well, I'd say, you know, for the first hundreds of hours, yeah, you might be getting a little bit tired of the soundtrack, but then they release a new DLC which adds more songs and it sort of freshens it up again. That's my feeling from the other Paradox games, at least. So yeah, soundtrack is getting tiresome after hundreds of hours. Is the reason we made a different music system this time around. Hopefully it'll be more contextual now. Also, there is more music than in any of our other titles. I would say also there is more music than there was in any of our other titles on release. Because I'm sorry, but I just cannot accept that CK3 will have more music than EU4 does, for example, with all the DLC. I'm sorry, I just cannot accept that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm going to be vastly surprised and this CK3 is going to come out with like a crap ton of music, but I don't think it's realistic to expect that. Let's put it that way. Is the ambient sound on the map tied to geographical location or tied to terrain type? It's not to get nerdy, but it's a mix of different systems. Some are based on the terrain type and other ambiences are spawned based on location. So a bit of both. Sounds brilliant. Ambience over the River Thames is masterful. Dev Diary is epic. Very good. Kudos. Awesome. Yeah. I guess people kind of liked it. I guess people liked it. The music sounds appropriately epic. Amazing job. One remark about the ambient sounds in India, since you mentioned Dharmic Holdings. Hindu temple bell just somehow doesn't sound right. I happen to have lived 2 years next to a small Hindu temple in Delhi, and the ringing of its bells by temple goers during the day became a natural background sound after a while. You got the bell sound right, but the rapid sequence of 4 bells feels wrong. More like a slightly stressful knock, 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 knock on a door. Could be the sound the priest makes to call devotees just before the puja, collective prayer. Okay. Thanks for your kind words about music. Regarding the bell sound, we do have more different recordings that you'll be able to hear. More of the 1 hit, 2 hits. Great observation. Thanks for the feedback. Alright. Overall, great stuff. Just how much will be done with zoom levels on Ambience? Okay. In Total War 3 Kingdoms, they were really great at having audio for both zoomed in and zoomed out. And in these examples we saw, it kind of sounds something in between, and for the case of the demonstration, maybe boosted a bit. I might be one of those weird people that likes to randomly scoot around the world and just listen and look at everything. If I create, and if it'll create performance issues, I can see why you'd restrict the dynamics to not be that affected by zoom levels, but just curious. Dude, it's for those people that we do all of this for. I mean, I don't think he's a weird person. Everyone looks around the map, right? Or am I one of those weird people too? That I like to look around the map at different places to see how the world's getting on. Is that just us? Is it just me and Razmorg? Maybe. What you're suggesting is absolutely great, and we would have definitely considered it if the map distance would have needed us to be more intimate on the design, but it would probably be quite difficult to differentiate the sound sources at the current zoom level we're handling in-game, and that's where we mostly handled it with distance attenuation. Hope that explains it. Sure. Knights of Jerusalem legit made me cry. Dry your eyes, mate. I will say that I am one of those people that music very much affects me, like, I wouldn't say emotionally, but I do get, in a movie, if there's a sad part and there's the appropriate sad song playing, I will get tears in my eyes. If there's no sad song playing at the sad part, I won't. So music absolutely affects me in that way, though I didn't cry when I was watching this. Just putting that out there. He cried from luminescence from Stellar. Okay. Alright then. Thank you. There will be some melodies themes that reappear in one form or another, but there won't be any reuse of full CK2 tracks. We had another vision for the implementation of music and audio this time around. Reusing them as they were would not fit in this design. I guess reusing them or reappearing in one form or another makes sense, because we did sort of hear in that last track the starting hymn from CK2, but then it transitioned into something a little bit different. I think we're going to see some of the same elements of some of the songs that we know and love, but to more reasonably fit in with the new sound design theory thing that we're going with now. But yeah, that was pretty awesome. As far as Dev Diaries go, definitely one of the good ones. I'm definitely a fan of the Dev Diary, and especially seeing a full 4 minutes of the music at the orchestra, that's just awesome. But yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think. Do you like the music that we heard today? Do you Do you feel sad that some of the CK2 music won't be added to the game? Though, let's be fair, there's going to be a mod probably day one that's going to add the entirety of the CK2 track to the game. So I wouldn't worry too much. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you liked the video, feel free to click the like button. And if you want to keep up to date with more CK3 news and updates, hit the subscribe button. But from me for now, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.